Welcome to Let's Talk Property, an informal podcast show all about the UK property and mortgage market. I'm Nizam, and joining me is my co-host Lee. Whether you're a seasoned property investor or just starting to think about buying your first home, this podcast is for you. We'll be discussing a range of topics, including the latest market trends, tips for finding the perfect property, and how to secure the best mortgage deal. So join us as we explore the world of property and help you make informed decisions about your next property purchase. Today's topic is going to be around the basics of buying a home. So I'm intrigued with this one, Lee. This is your topic this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it inspired me this week. We deal with a lot of first-time buyers in our kind of working life, and we kind of maybe have a bit more of an insight as to how they're feeling and what they're looking for. So, a lot of conversations I've had recently is around who does what, who's involved with buying a home. I know I need a mortgage and I know I might need a solicitor. So I just wanted to kind of just clarify really low level, for first time buyers listening, really kind of just the basics of who is involved with buying a home and kind of what their role is within helping you buy your first home. And really trying to get an idea of who does what, because I think I've been asked, many questions is, do I need a solicitor, or, why do I need to speak to an estate agent, or why do I need a surveyor or mortgage advisor? So lots of things. So we'll go over the real basics, and I'm really determined to get this under 10 minutes, this podcast. He says.
We will see, won't we? I think you can. This is if you're going to do it, this is the episode to do it on. But no, you're absolutely right. I think this is going to be like, basics of home buying 101 is, just an introduction to the different parties and understanding where they play their parts and, who you need to engage with and when, I guess. So, I'm looking forward to cracking on.
Absolutely. And I think there's a few podcast episodes that we've done, sort of did a deep dive on a surveyor in one of them and things like that. We haven't done estate agent yet, but yeah, this is just a real good overview. So I guess the first one, and I'm really understanding the basics, is everyone needs a mortgage to buy a property. So you need to borrow some money from the bank to buy a house. That's generally what's required. So the first point of call, generally speaking, is to speak with a mortgage advisor. It's understanding what you can borrow, and a mortgage advisor can allow you to understand what you can borrow from an independent mortgage advisor, be able to understand what you can borrow from across the market. So they would be called, maybe known as a mortgage and protection advisor. And they will be able to, the protection side is the insurance requirements and the insurance needs that you'll have, or protection needs that you have to make sure you keep your home. So really low level. Mortgage advisor, exactly what it says it is. They will help you find a mortgage based on your set of circumstances, and they'll find you from multiple options if it's independent, and they'll be able to help you qualify and understand what's available to you. And then they should be able to help you protect that, keep your home, helps you keep your home. That's the protection bit, which they'll be able to give you advice on. So that's kind of the role of a mortgage advisor. And that's probably the first point of call. If you're thinking of buying a home, really, you need to understand what it is you can borrow, because most people would need a mortgage, and, what your property budget is. So that would be the first one.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love that.
Solicitor and conveyancer. So these words do get mixed up a lot of the time. So solicitor and conveyancer are actually the same thing when it comes to property, when buying a property. The only difference is a conveyancer is someone who probably specializes more in property law. A solicitor is probably a bit more generic term for a lawyer, or someone who works with the legal work and with the property. So don't worry about getting those two mixed up. They're generally the same role. So a solicitor and a conveyancer is generally the same sort of party. What do they do? So you'll need a solicitor or a conveyancer to purchase your home. So you will need one, and they will carry out the legal work that is involved with buying your home. So they do, I don't want to go too deep into this because they do a number of things, but they will do things like making sure you meet the conditions of your mortgage. So if you have a mortgage that you're applying for and the mortgage is being secured on your home, they will do things to make sure that if there are some conditions that you need to meet with your mortgage, they will need to make sure that you're meeting them. It could be something as simple as they need to make sure you have buildings insurance. So it is a legal requirement to have a buildings insured or a property insured. So they will do things like that. They will also check your deposit along with a mortgage advisor, but more specifically, a solicitor will check things like where your deposit is coming from, the source of deposit. So they would do sort of money laundering checks, particularly if you're being gifted some money as well. So as a whole, you definitely need one to buy a home. They'll also register you as the owner, so that's quite important. So that's something they'll do sort of towards the end of the process, is register you as the owner. But as a whole, they'll carry out the legal work, and they're there to protect you as well. They're there to make sure that everything is done above board, and there's no sort of missing parts, particularly when applying for a mortgage and when you're becoming the owner of your new home. That's it with solicitors. Yes,
that's a really good one. I think that's a really key point as well, because I know from my experience, a lot of people get frustrated with solicitors, and we do too. And let's be honest, everyone wants that sale and that purchase to go through as quickly and smoothly as possible. And you feel like you're getting there, and then all of a sudden you go, hang on a minute, we're not ready to exchange because the solicitor's just thrown up 5 or 6 new inquiries that they could have done at the start or whatever. You feel they're just kind of dragging it along. But the really, really good, important thing to remember is they're doing that to protect you as the buyer, or the seller if they're working for you as a seller. But genuinely, those kind of checks are for you as a buyer, so that if you ever, when you move in, you're not going to have any problems. When you look to sell your home again in the future, another buyer is going to come along and do those checks again. So having those checks done are for your own good. They're there to protect you. So try and work with them rather than kind of resisting against them. Is my
absolutely.
That's a really good point.
One thing I will add to that, actually, it just reminded me, is a lot of people get confused when solicitors or a conveyancer, they carry out property checks. So when you say property checks, in terms of they do what we call searches. So those searches might include something like an environmental search to make sure that it's connected to sewer systems, if there's a mine nearby, if there's a flood risk nearby. They will do all these checks. But that's not to be confused with something that a surveyor does, which I will touch on at the last point. So the solicitor is kind of there to check the kind of surrounding areas and the kind of, not the condition of the property per se, but more the surrounding area and whether it's connected to various utilities and things like that. So just wanted to add that, because I think a lot of people do get confused is, the solicitor's doing a lot of checks and property checks for us, we don't need a surveyor. And I'll touch on why you need a surveyor shortly, but it's not to be confused with the same thing. Estate agent. So estate agent, when you're buying your first home, generally you haven't got a property to sell, so that's normally why you'd use an estate agent. But an estate agent, normally you would approach an estate agent if they're selling a property that you would like. So if you've seen one online on Rightmove, or local, you've nipped into a local shop or local estate agent. An estate agent is in effect someone who is selling properties on behalf of someone, so on behalf of a vendor or what we call seller. So they would be selling the property on their behalf. Their role within this is to negotiate and help negotiate the purchase price, but also the sale of the property as a whole. So when you go into an estate agent and you're interested in the property, they will likely show you around the property as well. But they will be the mediator or the intermediary between the person selling the property and you who wants to buy. And this is low level, but this is where you can start who you would put the property offer bid through and where you would start maybe negotiating the property price and ask any questions about the property as well. And that would be, for a first-time buyer, that would probably be your interaction with an estate agent, is really they have a property that you like, that they're selling on behalf of someone.
Excellent.
And then last one, surveyor, not to be confused with a conveyancer, because they do get mixed up. So again, the conveyancer is the legal side. A surveyor is a person that goes out to look at the property you're buying, and they will produce a report, or what we call a survey, and it is to check the condition of the property. And this is things like the condition of the electrical fittings, the windows, the roof, the brickwork. So this is really important that you get a survey done. Again, depends on the property you're buying, how old it is. There are different levels, which I don't want to jump into, but the surveyor is a person who produces the report and visits the property to make sure it's valued at what you're buying it for, but also the condition of the property is what you'd expect it to be. And if there are any serious issues, hopefully the surveyor will be able to pick that up.
Fantastic. I think that's a really key part of the step of buying a home as well. And it's not, again, not a mandatory one, but one that I would encourage anyone that's buying a house or a property, certainly over 5-10 years old, to consider. And you almost got that within 10 minutes, Lee. I think that's the closest we've got.
No, that's great. And I think hopefully that's helped. I just wanted to really line out what the kind of key sort of parties are within the mortgage and really give you a sort of an idea as to what they do and why they're important. But yeah,
I think you've done that.
Helped.
I think you've done that really well. And I think anyone that just wants to dip in and just get basics 101, who am I talking to and what, without all of the kind of detail, because like you said, we've done episodes before on the surveyors, the legal process, what a conveyancer does. We've got a couple of estate agents lined up as well to who are going to bring into the podcast episodes in future, so they can talk a bit more around what an estate agent does, give you some tips as a seller or a buyer there as well, and a bit more insight. But I think that was a fantastic overview and nice punchy episode. Love it.
Woohoo! About time. It's about time. Right. I will close off to keep it close to 10 minutes as possible. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk Property. We hope you found the discussion of the UK property market informative and helpful. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, feel free to send us a message. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and follow us on social media for updates on future episodes. Until next time, we'll see you in the property market.
It's your pause that gets me every time.